As the Celtics were pressing the issue, trying to run with Paul Pierce in control, and the foul goes on John Salmons. That is number 3 as you take a look at second quarter only. Points, field goals, and right on down the line.
I said earlier in the game I thought the Celtics were quick shooting the ball. They're not. Look at the field goals now. 9 of 15, 12 points in the paint, 9 points off the bench plus 6. So the Bulls have dominated the bench in this series tonight. It is Boston. It's been Scalabrine and it's been Eddie House. They have 14 off the bench. Points in the paint now going to Celtics. So all of a sudden, the numbers are starting to skew in favor of Boston when they're at their best.
Heinrich for Salmons, who's got 3. Got a 17-point swing over the last 8 minutes. The corkscrewing Davis over Noah. The rebound by Perkins. A shove, and Perkins, Doug, has just picked up his 3rd personal. That is a story for Boston.
Well, that's why I said Doc really has to watch that. Kendrick Perkins has to be smarter than that, though. The guy was in front of him. The referee's standing right there, and he pushes off. Let's watch where his hands are. Brad Miller is right there, and he just sort of gives him a little shove with the elbow. Maybe not a lot. Maybe Miller sold it, but you can't put yourself in that position. You're too important to your team.
Mikey Moore is coming for Perkins. Ray Allen is coming for House. 2.5 to play in the half. Rose, 4 of 10. Gordon, 5 of 9, knocked away. The defense by Rondo. Rose got in the way of that pass as the Chicago Bulls have just committed their 9th turnover.
When they get in trouble, and I've said this over and over again, they dribble and they try to do too much their own. It's not being selfish. What happens is you look up at the clock and you go, uh-oh, we're down 8. I better do something. And that's exactly what Doc Rivers talked to his team about. Trust your teammates, help each other. That's when you're at your best, and that's what the Celtics are doing in this period.
And a quick foul with Rose defending Paul Pierce, who is such a crafty veteran. Rose picks up his 1st personal foul. We've got 2:18 to play here in the second quarter. And they'll inbound across the way with Rondo. Rondo, Doug, 0 of 4. What is he? You were counting 4 of his last 21 going back to game 6.
Yeah, he's been out of sync. And, you know, I'm not so sure that foul at the end of game 5 and then going in the start of game 6, the little skirmish he had with Heinrich, he's not been his same since then. And he's got to be feisty and aggressive. And I have not seen that with him as of late. Here is Paul Pierce. And remember, early in the 3rd quarter of our game in game 6, he got scratched by Tyrus Thomas, who went for the ball and ended up getting anywhere, they said, from 7 to 10 stitches in his nose. Came back and finished that game, obviously, but it looks like that maybe has been reopened and is bleeding, so they're trying to get that stopped. And you see, Kevin, in that game, he got off to a very good start. He had the halftime rest, came out, had the late laceration, had to be stitched up. I never thought he got back in rhythm after that game. And so it's going to be very important for them to get that bleeding stopped here. Paul Pierce, 11 points tonight. Really has picked up his game here in the second quarter.
Just finishing up on Rondo, Doug, when we start this conversation, his speed was not a factor in game 6. His speed doesn't, at least so far, appear to be a factor here in game 7.
Well, he's playing more like a traditional point guard right now, and Doc Rivers said what he needs him to do is really push that ball. And you can see in the first 5 games, Kevin, 6 points in the paint. Look what he was doing fast break-wise in the first 5. So he's really playing more as a passer now.
They concede the shot to Big Baby. They were doubling Pierce and picked up by Rose. Rose gets the rebound, and that is his 1st. Rondo defending. Screened by Miller, and it's out to Miller.
Big Baby's got to be careful. He has 2 fouls.
Into Mikey Moore goes Miller. Well, that was an ugly-looking drive, and Miller picks up the offensive foul. Let me throw one more thing out there about Rondo. You talk about being a traditional guard. He hasn't turned the ball over, Doug, in his last 73 minutes of playing time. He had 19 assists in game 6. And tonight, he's got 5.
And you like that. You like him taking care of the ball, but you also, too, he's got to take some chances. He's got to be the guy who gets that ball in the lane and really creates problems. And right now, he's sort of passing the ball and getting out of the way.
Pierce trending inside, met by the defense of Noah and Heinrich. Perkins is on the Boston bench with 3 fouls. Salmons is on the Chicago bench. He's got 3 fouls. Shot clock here at 9.
Now, finishing quarters, Boston would love to have a double-digit lead going in at halftime. They have to love the fact the Bulls only have 38 points. Beautiful little set play here.
Knocked away by Miller. Another block. Allen gets it again. Mikey Moore tries to put it in. Mikey Moore comes up with 2.
Well, this is the first game that I've seen the defense of Boston really get locked in here. After that start in the first quarter, they have really settled down, and Chicago is really struggling to get a good shot.
It's Pierce watching Heinrich. Shot clock is down to 6. Lost the ball. Another turnover for Chicago. 8 in the quarter. Mikey Moore galloping inside, ramming his way into both Heinrich and Miller. With 1:08 to play here in the first half. And the foul goes on Brad Miller for the second time as we take you now to our TNT Arena and Ernie Johnson.
All right, thank you, Kev. Southwest Airlines game break coming up in just a few minutes. Charles and Kenny will be here to break down the first 24 minutes in Boston. Later on, Inside the NBA, complete post-game coverage and a look ahead to the next round as Orlando awaits the winner. Now back to Boston, Kev.
EJ, thank you. Moore hits his first. That gives Boston their biggest lead of 11. Scoring droughts for the Bulls and Coach Vinny Del Negro. Nothing over the last almost 7 minutes for Chicago from the field. They had a similar drought of 5.5 minutes, Doug, with nothing from the field in the first quarter.
And they had a 7-possession drought at the end of game 6. Where the Celtics hit him with the 18-0 run. This is when Doc Rivers said, when we get multiple stops defensively, it creates offense. And that's exactly what's happened in the second quarter.
Heinrich into 2 defenders. Rondo is on Miller. Shot clock at 10. Rondo with the steal. Noah with the dive. Out of bounds. Boston's ball.
Too much dribbling. They have too much dribbling and congestion. Brad Miller again turns the ball over. This is those 50-50 plays. Layout, Noah both did. Noah had possession of the ball, was on the sideline. So Rondo with the hustle there, the energy play, and it's going to be possession. Boston Celtics here, a little over 50 seconds to go in this period.
Well, let's revisit some of your keys. And you began, Doug, with toughness, as we've always talked about. But points in the paint has been one of the primary statistical looks of this game that you've hung your hat on.
Well, 20-4 now, plus 16 for the Boston Celtics. How about the bench tonight? I said, was Doc Rivers going to be able to find anybody? Scalabrine 8. 6 for Eddie House. 4 for Mikey Moore. 18-5 off the bench. Miller and Heinrich tonight 0-5. They have been so good. They have a combined 5 points, all at the free throw line. 12 turnovers now for Chicago. That's led to 11 points, so plus 10 points off turnovers. I talked about the turnover story. Plus 16 points in the paint. As this game goes on, Chicago has to go in at halftime. They have got to talk about moving that ball. Get good shots, move the basketball, and trust one another.
Fast break points so huge. You just talked about that. Of course, Boston has got the advantage there. So 50 seconds remaining in the second quarter. Boston has their biggest lead. The Bulls in this quarter, only 11 points and 9 turnovers. Rondo, no fouls to give either way. 0-4, 15 minutes of work. Rose is on him. There's a steal by Heinrich. And he tripped over Pierce inadvertently. And they call Pierce right there with the foul, only his first of the game.
Well, that's a lazy play by Paul Pierce. He came up to the top of the court, just nonchalantly reached for the ball, and Heinrich read it and came to the weak side. You got to meet the pass. Actually, Heinrich tripped over his own feet, so that's a break there for the Chicago Bulls.
Heinrich got those stitches above that right eye when he was tripped driving down the lane a couple games ago by Rajon Rondo. So 40 seconds remaining. We are in the second quarter. Chicago's lead has been as big as 9. Doc. It's the 5th team foul. We said no fouls to give unless the scoreboard inside the building is wrong. McCutcheon's got it cleared up.
See, that's what happens sometimes. The scoreboard is not right. You got to go by the scores table. And I'm sure the coaches looked over. That's what the trainer keeps fouls and timeouts and all those trainers are so valuable over on the bench, the athletic trainers. And Heinrich here tonight is really, really having a tough night. He's 0 of 2 from the field. He's missed a free throw, only 2 points. He's played over 10 minutes. Also has turned the ball over tonight, and both misses, both free throws. So I used to always